to grow their career and move to the next level and the next level again. It's necessary to step out of that comfort and step into discomfort and challenge yourself. Welcome to Bench Talk, the podcast where I dive deep into conversations with inspiring artists to unveil the secrets behind their creativity, along with discussions and behind-the-scenes insights into the realities of building a professional art career. Welcome to another episode of Bench Talk. I'm your host, Tom Gerrard. Today I'm sitting down with Claire Bradshaw from the Art Career Academy once again, and we're talking about one of the key shifts that artists make as they're moving to the next level. Now, this is a mindset shift that like all humans experience at some point in their life, but it seems very prominent with artists as they're going from one level to the next. And today we're going to talk about that. So thanks for joining us, Claire.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm excited about this topic that we're going to be going through. And so as Tom alluded to, Tom's been running Bench Talk for the last 10 years. He's interviewed over 200 artists on his podcast who are career artists. He's also been a career artist himself for 10 years. And we've been running an Art Career Academy for 3 years. So we've worked with lots of different artists. And so something that we see happen a lot with artists, as Tom said, as they're moving from one level to the next, and specifically what we're talking about today is, practicing artists who are selling a bit of artwork, they're doing lots of things, but they know that they want to get to a certain point where they're maybe going full-time, maybe they've got consistent income, maybe they're really growing in terms of their impact with their art in the world, but they just don't know how to get there. And this shift that we're going to go through today is one of 3 shifts that we actually spoke about in our masterclass. So we'll tell you more about that in a moment. But this shift is very much an identity-based shift. It's a mindset-based shift. And it's where an artist goes from, creating the artwork and seeing themselves as an artist who's making art to realizing that they're actually also running a business. And it's a distinct shift. And when that shift starts to happen and they start to take things seriously and they start to show up from that perspective, that's when everything starts to change. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, aren't we, Tom?
We sure are.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, before we get into, I'm going to ask Tom a whole bunch of questions because he's got all of this wisdom, and we're going to kind of pull all of that out of Tom. But before we start, I would love to know, if you think about your own career, when was the point, or what helped you make that shift from seeing yourself as a graphic designer who was doing a bit of art on the side, or someone who was kind of like, yeah, I do some art on the side, to actually going, I am an artist, I am a professional artist, that shift?
It was a slow, gradual process, I'd say. There were times where I'd call myself an artist, but I wasn't showing up professionally. So, people say, "Oh, what do I do?" And I'd have a full-time job as a graphic designer at the time, but I'd say, "Oh, I'm an artist," and then they'd ask me about it, and I wouldn't have really much to show for it, other than painting a lot of graffiti, which I wasn't, looking to make any money off. So I started having to actually work on my art a lot more, instead of just thinking, as long as I've got paint in my hands and I'm using it, I'm an artist. I had to start thinking about, well, what am I actually doing to build a career? And it started with started to exhibit a lot more. I started to make art to sell as well. Like before that, it was all just painting on the streets just for myself and my peers. Whereas I started thinking a bit more about let's make some money, because I actually wanted to transition into a full-time art career. But if I wasn't making the money to even match my earnings that I was making at the time, then there was no way I was going to leave my job. So it was something that took years for me. I'd say it was probably a 3-year build from having that thought of going, all right, I'm going to go for this, to actually being full-time as an artist. But there was a lot that happened in that time. And I
Yeah.
won't go into
Yeah.
all that. It will be for ages.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I suppose, at that point in time, there was no one talking like we're talking about art careers and the mindset and the different things that you can do, right? You were basically working it out on your own. And so, of course, it took 3 years because,
Mm.
you were having to gain more and more evidence and things like that, which took a lot of time.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and
also, just sorry to cut you off, but there was a big thing that did change for me is I started spending more time around artists who were actually already full-time artists, and that was the biggest, like, sort of quantum leap for me for my art career because I started to see how people were doing it, and then I could ask them lots of questions as well, you know? So
yeah.
that was a big game changer for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And, there's different levels of this, where, that was right when you were at the start of going, oh, I'm dabbling on the side to kind of going, actually, I want a career. So that was that transition. But then when you actually went full time as an artist, which was in a way we could say a bit premature, like, it was like you kind of just leapt and hoped that it would all work out. And, hey, you've been doing that for the last 10 years. So it did work out. But along that journey, there's been lots of mindset shifts along the way, hasn't there? And a lot of that has related to actually starting to have a vision and getting clear and having clarity in terms of where you actually wanted to take your career. Because then you've created that gap between I'm here and this is where I'm wanting to go. Okay, who do I need to start showing up as in order for me to get to where I'm wanting to go? But also, what are the things I'm needing to say yes to and then also no to? And all of those micro decisions influence, you know, the opportunities that find you and the opportunities that you're saying yes to, and those alignments and the way you're perceived in the market as well, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. I thought, like, I was it was a bit of a, I don't know, I had to reinvent myself, but I had to sort of kill off part of who I was being as well, which was quite
Mhm.
painful, because I was sort of very attached with this past version of myself. But I realized that if I stayed in that place, I wasn't going to get to where I wanted to go. So I had to reinvent myself as an artist, not just a guy that paints on the streets. And yeah, that came up, like, it brought up a whole bunch of stuff. And I've spoken with a lot of artists who have taken a similar transition from the streets to, be the
Mm.
galleries, so to speak. And a lot of people go through the same stuff. And it's more that you've gone from doing it from a very pure place, where it's like, oh, I'm not making any money off this. I just love creating for creation's sake, to then monetizing that. And that's when I know you think you're going to get shunned by your peers and all this type of stuff. It's a real, I know it's hard work, but I just knew that where I wanted to go, and I just had to sort of make some really tough decisions regarding all that
Mm.
stuff. You know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mm.
And everyone's different in terms of what their conditioning is, right? And when we talk quite a lot about conditioning and stuff, and if you're not sure of what I'm talking about, it's basically all of the beliefs that have been instilled in our brains since we were children, from family, from friends, from school, from all different parts of society. And some of those things might be helpful for us, but other things won't be. And so, particularly for artists, there is a conditioning around, the poor starving artist, or you can't have a career, or is it selling out to sell your art? Like, there's a lot of beliefs that are limited beliefs, conditioning that isn't helpful. So as artists, you've got to be working through all of that stuff as well as building up your own confidence. So it is a chunky thing. And I think that this is one of the key things that's actually holding a lot of artists back, because they're not aware that they're walking around with a lot of these limiting beliefs that are actually preventing them. And that's why, as Tom said, having community, being around lots of other artists that are going for it, that are working on their minds, that are taking actions, is really important, because it gives you more evidence of what's possible. When you see it from other people, then you start to ask yourself, okay, what's also possible for me? And there's something super empowering about that, isn't there, Tom?
It sure is. It sure is. And like, I'm talking now a lot about, like, the first time I went through this, but I find that, every few years as I take my art to the next level, there's a new version of this, a new up leveling that has to happen. And it never comes easy. It's this whole like having to let go of some like things that are quite comfortable. And
Yeah.
you feel like, yeah, I'm comfortable like playing in this arena here, but you need to move to the next arena. You need to let all of that stuff go. And it can be sometimes like, finding a new group of artists to even be around or things like that. Or there's other times like I've seen lots of things with different artists that go through different situations of this. There's like stagnation is a common thing that pops up when everything's very comfortable, and you can reach a certain level and be at that level for say 5 years, and your prices haven't gone up, your art hasn't changed at all, and everything's exactly as it was. And
Mm.
and you can go, oh, I'm cool here, but if you don't move through that, then you will stay there for the rest of your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, it happens at all different levels of an art career.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
totally. And yeah, that stagnation thing is a real thing. So there's like that initial thing of putting yourself out there and, getting over the fear of what other people will think and how will my art be received and, oh, all of those kind of like weird beliefs at the start. But then even years and years later, you may get to a position where you've had a certain level of success. But then, as Tom's saying, you get comfortable with, just kind of repeating an art style and get comfortable with knowing how to do things, but then you're not challenging yourself to take the next level, because then what happens is then fear comes up and then it's easy to kind of stay at a certain point, but actually that's going to prevent a person, if they stay there, from actually really growing and expanding and building that more sustainable career.
Mm.
Yeah,
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 totally.
I love it. And so, like, from all of the people that you've mentored and your own experiences and all these interviews that you've done, what are some of the things that you see where artists are really holding themselves back from having a professional career around, this identity? Because as we speak about in Art Career Academy, there's the mindset is really behind the actions that you take. And the thing is, we can get so, because this is how we've been taught, is that we can be so obsessed with, what do I need to do next or what's the strategy, but not realize that actually, if we're taking those actions from I say shitty mindset, what I mean is like, a mindset that's not going to help you to get where you want to go, then those actions are not going to actually get you what you want.
Mm. Yeah, well, I've seen lots of different cases, but I think the one it's mostly a mental game. Like everything that's happening is in the artist's mind, and it's like asking things like, if I um, update my style, or I've come across this new themes in my artwork or ways of expressing myself creatively, but if I start doing that and leave behind my other stuff, is everyone going to forget me, or will I be starting from
Yeah.
scratch, or and all these types of things. There's I don't know, there's like the thing I keep coming back to is being comfortable, being very comfortable, and just not feeling like you need to do anything. And I like, hey, if people want to do that, that's completely fine. But if they're looking to grow their career and move to the next level and the next level again, it's necessary to step out of that comfort and step into discomfort and challenge yourself, really. Um,
Mm.
and I feel that we do live in a comfortable lifestyle in this day and age. Like, we've got everything at our fingertips and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, I think discomfort is a fear of discomfort is a big thing that holds a lot of people back. You know.
Yeah. And
Mm.
I think, one of the other things that I've seen show up is like this imposter syndrome. So,
Mm.
people feeling like they're not ready yet, or feeling like, who am I to da, 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 who am I to speak to that gallery owner? Or, who am I to, put myself forwards for a particular art prize or something like that, holding back until they feel ready. And, that readiness feeling is bullshit, really. It's just a fearful part of self. And that actually taking the actions is where you start to then get more evidence of being ready. And it's not waiting until that feeling happens, but actually doing it anyway, and then that feeling will happen through the action. And
Mm,
so many people are holding themselves back because they're waiting to feel ready, or they're feeling like they don't belong, or that, it's not for them yet, and this type of thing. And actually that is what's holding them back, not their art, not the quality of their art or anything like that.
mm. Yeah, because you hear it a lot with say musicians getting up on stage, or athletes performing, that they like they've all got the butterflies and they're absolutely
Mm.
like a nervous wreck as they go out and do their thing. And you hear them say that if once that feeling starts to leave, their performance starts to waver and they start to drop off because
Mm.
there's nothing on the line for them anymore. So, I think that feeling is what you're really looking for, but a lot of people run away from that feeling. Like, "Oh, it's too scary. Oh, it's too this, it's too that." I even felt that from starting the podcast. I remember going, "I can't talk into a microphone." Now I'm on camera, and I went through it again with that. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
things like, but I feel that, you know, as you used to say, Claire, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. And it's a practice, right? It's a
It is.
practice. And like we see some people can just like literally jump into the most wildest things. And we're like, whoa, like that's a massive leap that
Mm,
they've taken, right? And their nervous system is okay with that. Other
mm,
people, it's like a little step, and then another little step, and then another little step. And that's how they build. We're all a little bit different. Um, but I'd love to talk about something like a little bit more practical in terms of how, like, a mindset that is, oh, I'm just an artist, and playing in that kind of like I'm just an artist, or like, waiting to be seen, or waiting to have permission, and kind of in that game. Now, they're a brilliant artist. They've been painting for freaking years, maybe since they were a child, and they've nailed all of that aspect. But their perception of self is, I'm just an artist. And moving into, I'm a career artist, I'm a professional artist, that's the leap. So, what do you see if someone's kind of with that mindset? How do you see then that showing up in terms of the actions that they're taking? What
mhm.
kind of ways does that kind of physically look?
I think the key thing is to have a vision for what it is that you want to be doing. Because with like a vision's a roadmap, really. And if you get clear on like even like an end goal, say where you want to be in 20 years or 5 years or 1 year, whatever, and then it's all about walking that journey. Making sure that you're showing up, and there will be a lot of discomfort, but also um, that like if someone's say a really good artist but they're not being seen, there's a business aspect that needs to really come into their creativity as well, because it's a seesaw, it's a balancing act between creativity and running a business. And um gone are the days where galleries do everything for an artist. It's galleries definitely play a role, and there's agents out there and all that type of things. But I think no one runs an artist business as much as the actual artists themselves. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But there's you know like I've got two friends who have both coming out the gates, and they were working on their art and they were in their studios, and they started to develop their styles, and they came out and they held themselves in really high regard. I don't know, it must be something to do with their nurturing or something, because they came out very confident and they overtook all these artists. And I saw them like in their first year sort of cut 5 years off their art careers and get in with good galleries and present their art really professionally and all that stuff. And I just looked at them thinking, wow, they must have very strong head on their shoulders to be able to skip all those steps. They didn't go to that like put on their own exhibition and then work with some low run galleries. They went straight to the top and got solo shows straight away with established galleries. And I think a lot of it had to do with their confidence and also how they showed up professionally. And they They documented their art really well, and their art looked brilliant as well, because it was not just what was in the art, but also the way it was presented. They
Mm.
presented it beautifully with nice frames and all that type of stuff. So when the gallery saw them, all they saw was what was in front of them, and said, "Oh, well, yeah, let's work with these guys. Like they're showing up really well, you know." Um, so and they could have gone the other way. They could have been like, "Oh no, I'm not ready yet," and held off for another 7 years or something like that. But instead, they just went for it, and that was a massive inspiration for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
for sure. And for some people that, that can be a challenge to step into, but it feels more natural. For other people, it may be, do the group shows, put on your solo show yourself and then, work towards gallery. But as you said, you need to have the vision. You need to kind of start to map out what does that actually look like? And it's going to be different for everyone, but it's really connected to what does the individual artist want out of their career. Because ultimately, if you don't have that vision of where you're wanting to go, then it's so easy to just plod along doing the same thing every day, which is going to get you the same results. But there will be a feeling of like, I'm not progressing, I'm not getting to where I want to go. And often when you ask those people, so where is it where you want to go? And they don't actually know, but they have this sense, this feeling of like, I'm not where I want to be. And so the key is then to actually connect in with your vision, isn't it? And then to start work out, okay, so then what are the milestones that I need to set? What are the goals? And then what are the actions that I need to take in order to get there?
Totally.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because, and we were talking about this the other day in one of our groups about, there's pluses and minuses to everything. And I think, with an art career, one of the incredible things about it is that, there isn't a pre-plan of how it needs to look. Like there's the freedom that artists have to make their career what they want to make it. And each artist gets that opportunity to do that. And there's that freedom in that. But the other side is that there isn't that the comfortable kind of like you do this, you'll get this result from doing that, like we've been taught in school, or if you went to university or you went into the workforce, there's that pre-formatted plan for you, someone else has already laid it out, whereas artists don't have that. So you've got to keep digging within yourself and surround yourself with people who are already doing it.
Yep. 100%
Yeah.
agree.
Love it, love it, love it. And I would love to hear. I know that when we've spoken about this before, some people say, well, isn't this like just faking it till you make it? What's your thoughts on that, Tom?
Oh, I hate that term.
Mm.
Because what we're talking about here is not faking it,
Mm.
like it's being it, really. It's holding your head
Mm.
up high. Yeah, you might be a bit nervous and a bit wobbly and like, whoa, like, but you don't fake it, because who wants to deal with someone fake, And
Yeah.
just be it. And you might not fully embody it in the beginning, but the more you show up and the more you continue to be that person who you're wanting to be, then you will eventually get there and be them. you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's my theory on it anyway. But like the whole like with that fake it till you make it, I do believe, like, sort of aim higher than
Mm.
you feel comfortable with, but it's not really faking it. It's sort of going, oh, I think I'm there. Let's see if I'm there yet. It's
Mm.
it's not fake though.
Well, I also think it comes back to your vision. I know we go
Mm,
on about this all the time, but when you have that vision was given to you for a reason, right?
mm,
Like it's specific to you because you are meant to fulfill it. You wouldn't be given it if you weren't meant to fulfill it, right? But then if the vision is, it's expansive, it's way further than where you're wanting to be, then it's your job to fill the gap between how you're showing up now and who you need to be showing up as in order to achieve that vision, right? And
totally.
so it's not actually becoming anyone other than your higher self,
Mm, yeah,
isn't it?
totally. It
So it's
is.
actually not fakeness. It's actually being more authentically you than ever. It's not
Yeah,
being the small self. It's being the higher self.
yeah. It's being it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Love it, love it.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's probably where we're going to go to today.
yeah.
we hope that you've got some real value from this, and at least as much as anything else, it started to kind of make you think about things in a different way. If you wanted to learn more about this particular topic, but also the other two shifts that help artists go from being practicing artists to real career professional artists, then you can get the recording from our masterclass that we ran yesterday. We'll put the link in the show notes, and you can watch that. If you're ready and you're like, hey, how do I join your group and how do I get involved? Then we have literally just opened up the doors to Momentum, which is our ongoing mentorship and membership community for artists who are making over $3,500 or have made at least $3,500 from their artwork to date. So you already know how to sell your artwork, but you're wanting to take things to the next level, whether that's a full-time career, whether that's, reaching higher goals, and you know that you need to be in a room of other people who are doing it and have that support, then this is really the place where you want to be. So we'll put the link as well down below, and you can see whether that is what you are looking for. Over to you, Tom.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks again, Claire, for joining me. I love these conversations, and I love breaking down all the different intricacies that go into making up an artist's career, because it is a never-ending conversation. And as you were saying before, I've been doing this podcast for 10 years, and we've been running Art Career Academy for 3 years, and the conversation never dries up. There's always more stuff to start to unpack. So yeah, I look forward to unpacking more of them with you in the future.
For sure. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Thanks for tuning in today. If you love this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with an artist friend who needs to hear it. Word of mouth is how we reach more creatives like you. And if you're ready to take the next step in your art career, head to the show notes and grab our free resources. They're designed to help you build momentum and clarity on your creative path. Until next time, keep creating.